Some student athletes have already gotten themselves into really bad business deals. I want to highlight one in particular and talk about how it could have been prevented. Hello everyone, I'm Sydney Umeri and this is Retired College Athletes, a platform designed to inspire and inform all athletes through stories and advice from retired college athletes. As always, I'm not a fan of long intros, so let's go ahead and jump into this. As you may know, it's been a little under a month of student athletes being able to be paid off of their name, image, and likeness. And while that's been wonderful, I'd be lying if I didn't say there were a few drawbacks. The NCAA rolled this out really quickly, and there weren't a lot of rules and regulations around that. And to be honest, that's not a bad thing. I mean, the NCAA hasn't had a great track record of that anyway. But there are some things that student athletes should be aware of. A few people have been talking about it in the media, but it isn't widely discussed. So today I'm going to bring your attention to 4 different things that you, as student athletes or parents of anybody who's connected to a student athlete, should know about NIL just to protect these athletes. The first one is really bad business deals. I don't think anyone is super surprised by this. We all knew that bad business deals were possibly around the corner for student athletes, and we've already kind of talked about that a little bit on this channel. I dedicated a whole video to this for business tips for student athletes so they can better navigate this NIL landscape. And if you're interested, I will link that in the cards above and in the description box below. But in particular, some student athletes have already gotten themselves into really bad business deals. I want to highlight one in particular and talk about how it could have been prevented. The gaming company called Yoke, which is an awesome gaming company that allows athletes to play with their fans and live stream it and things like that. It's really fun. They had opened it up for now student athletes to do the same, and that's all great. But there are terms and conditions that go into any contract with the company, and I feel like a lot of student athletes didn't read those terms and conditions. Now, I don't want to fault them too much. I'm not someone who always reads terms and conditions, and I know we're all told to, but this is one of those instances where they definitely should have done that. Yoke would take any of their live streaming content and they would be able to edit it and use it for marketing purposes that these student athletes would not get the opportunity to make money off of because it would be royalty free. So whatever Yoke is paying these athletes at the beginning, or if they're even paying them, that would be it. So let's say that an athlete games today and they have this content that they produced. That means that 10 years from now, Yoke could still use that content. So let's say this athlete is playing now in college, they go pro, and 10 years from now, they're still pro, and Yoke decides to use this content. That athlete would still not make money off of what they produce today because of what the contract said, what the terms and conditions said. Businesses can be sneaky. They are seeing an opportunity here. They're seeing a lot of novice business people, a lot of younger individuals now coming into the business world due to name, image, and likeness, and they're looking to take advantage, and that's so unfortunate. And I'm dedicated to helping and providing as much information as I possibly can around this, but how this could have been prevented is for the student athletes to truly read through everything. And even then, possibly get a lawyer to read through it for you. To be honest, contracts, terms and conditions, they all sound like a foreign language. And I know a lot of people feel the same way. So I really do think it's important to build out people who can help you, who have your best interests in mind, and sometimes those are people who need to be hired. I am not a lawyer, no one in my family is a lawyer, and so if I don't understand a contract, I need to be able to seek out help outside of my family, possibly a paid lawyer, most definitely probably a paid lawyer who can help me figure out if this contract is something I should move forward with. And you're probably like, I mean, it's kind of a lot of money to hire a lawyer, and I completely agree, and some of you guys might not have the resources, and I completely understand it. But if you do have the resources and you still think it's a little expensive, think about how much money these student athletes are losing on the back end. So whatever the charge is up front, it may be worth it to absorb that cost. It's just a business expense if you have an entity. Again, see the video in the cards or in the description box below about the business tips for student athletes. But it is important to maybe mark it off as a business expense and then hopefully have the opportunity to gain that back through what you're earning. Number 2 is that NIL negatively affects Pell Grant. So what is Pell Grant? Pell Grant is a form of student financial aid that is given to undergraduates. It's often given to people who come from families that make less than $50,000 a year. And this is huge because endorsements change family income, especially if you are someone who files underneath your parents. It can change their taxes. For you, if you file for yourself, it will definitely change your taxes if you sign endorsement deals or work with companies, because it is changing your income. But the biggest thing is, if you're a family that's on the cusp of that $50,000 and you bring in an endorsement deal, that goes into your family's income. You may not be able to qualify for Pell Grant because you have raised your family's income above $50,000. The third thing is that international student athletes cannot take advantage of NIL. And this is devastating. The reason for this is because international student athletes, or international students in general, come into the United States under an F1 visa, which is a student's visa. And there are some strict parameters around how much they can work, how much money they can take in, because they are just considered students. It's not a work visa. And unfortunately, these endorsement deals do not fall under what is acceptable. Now, I posted this on Instagram and I had a few questions about, well, what if they get money from their home country, a business in their home country? Would that count? In my mind, I think that's pretty risky. The reason why I say this is because as an international student, you will report all of your income and any way that you make money to an immigration officer. If they deem that to be in violation of your F1 visa, you may be deported. And I'm not sure it's worth it to get into an endorsement deal that could get you deported. I just don't think it's worth it. So with that said, this may change and it may not. A lot of people are mad at the NCAA for this, but really what's happening here is that it is a US government law. It has a lot more to do with US immigration than it does with the NCAA, and unfortunately, international student athletes are caught in the middle of it. If you would like more information about this topic in particular, I did post about it on Instagram, and there is a little bit more information there, so I will link that post down below, and this is what it looks like. And then finally, the last thing is that it could further show the inequity between female and male athletes. Now, it is no surprise that female sports do not get the same amount of funding, support, they don't bring in the same amount of revenue, and that's usually the thing that people sit on. But ultimately, we're looking at companies now buying into these athletes, and I think it will show how companies don't value women's sports as much as they value men's. And I know everyone has their own opinion on this, so please respectfully leave them in the comments. As a former female athlete, I kind of feel for the women on this side. I do think female athletes with big followings will be able to monetize and be able to get into bigger endorsement deals and things like that, but for the average athlete, that is not the case. Well, actually, I have a whole video on how the average athlete can make money off of NIL, so I will again link that in the cards and in the description box below. But I really do think this will further show the inequity between men's sports and women's sports. With that said, these are just a few downsides of NIL. It might not affect every single student athlete, but it may affect some, and that's why we're talking about it. At the end of the day, NIL came into action on July 1st of 2021. That wasn't that long ago, and I feel like the NCAA will continue to adjust all of this. And is that a good thing or a bad thing? Well, I don't know. I mean, it could be good to kind of provide a little bit more structure around this, but at the end of the day, I don't think the NCAA is really good at providing structure that is fair. I mean, they haven't had a great track record of it, so I don't really trust them to be great at it, but I think more rules and regulations and possibly more freedoms are coming. Whether that's a good or bad thing, well, you can let me know in the comments below. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope you guys learned a lot from it. If you did, please consider liking it, subscribing, and hitting the bell notification so you don't miss any of our content. I post content every Thursday and some Sundays, so that's what you can expect from this channel. Content really similar to this. I hope you guys will stick around, and I can't wait to talk to you guys in the next video.